Whataboutism.
What about it? This disinformation technique is one of the most effective tricks for a guilty person to turn the tables on their accuser. What about learning how to stop it?
Before you become a victim of whataboutism yourself.
The Disinformation Handbook is our guide to rejecting deception.
Today we're talking about whataboutism. What is this word salad? Well, it's a good way to get out of trouble if you're accused of something. It's also perhaps the lowest form of arguing ever invented.
Whataboutism was best known from its effectiveness during the Cold War, when the US accused the USSR of human rights violations in Eastern Europe. The USSR then clapped back with, "What about civil rights violations in the South?"
They flipped the script on the USA, despite the US having a real argument about the terrible things happening in Eastern Europe. The USSR knew they couldn't win the argument, so instead of defending it, they played the "you are a hypocrite so I don't have to answer" card. Not the most popular card in a tarot deck, but it's in there.
Whataboutism isn't about solving a problem, it's about ducking responsibility.
It's not just popular with Cold War superpowers.
Actually, it's just as effective in your own home. For a good example, let's look at your annoying neighbor.
Your annoying neighbor has been a thorn in your side for years now. He's messy, loud, and always disruptive. Last night was the final straw. He had a party that went on until 3 a.m. and his guests left trash in your yard. No excuse can save him from this. It's time to finally confront him. So you knock on his door.
I've had enough of this. Your party kept me up last night and my yard is trashed.
Get ready for the apology in 3, 2.
You think that's annoying? Last week your car blocked my driveway and I did right through my lawn to pull in.
Not the apology you were expecting. You've just been whataboutized.
Was what you did as bad as what he did?
But why is he just complaining about it now and not last week?
It's probably because it didn't bother him enough to say anything then. You know what does bother him? You calling him out about that party last night.
He knows he's guilty, and he should probably take the L.
It's possible he wants to win despite having this losing position. To do this, he will reposition this argument completely and go on the offense rather than playing defense.
Speaking of fences, you suddenly realize what your neighbor is doing and try your own hand at whataboutism.
What about your fence? It's falling apart. There's shards all over my damn yard.
What about your kids running through the fence into my damn yard?
You can see where this is going. In fact, a man up in Maine went tit for tat with his neighbor. It got so bad that when he found out his property line was bigger, he took a sawzall to his neighbor's garage.
I'm reclaiming my line.
And how?
If you want to see a whataboutism in the real world, look no further than a rap feud.
This guy's a gangster. His real name's Clarence. And Clarence lives at home with both parents.
This guy don't want to battle, he's shook. Cause ain't no such thing as a halfway crook.
In 2015, Meek Mill accused Drake of not promoting Meek Mill's album because Meek's team found out Drake used a ghostwriter, a man named Quentin Miller. What happened next is a thing that makes fights in the hip-hop world so much more fun than anywhere else. When you say something mean about someone, they take a lot of time and care to write a very catchy song about you. And Drake wrote one.
6.
Drake wrote 6 songs about Meek.
Drake could have used the song to deny the allegations, with a line about putting pen to pad, or more likely talk to text.
Or he could have owned the accusations, making the very real point that famous musicians don't need to write their own music.
Instead, Drake goes for one of the greatest whataboutisms of all rap history, when he basically says, "Yeah, well, you're only famous because you're sleeping with Nicki Minaj." And he says it a lot.
6.
No woman ever had me starstruck, or was able to tell me to get my bars up. I'm charged up.
Cold like Alaska.
Meek and Nicki Minaj's relationship has nothing to do with Meek's accusations of Drake using a ghostwriter.
Doesn't it though? The accusation Mills made about ghostwriters being the secret to Drake's success must have stung. Perhaps most of all because it had a shade of truth. Rather than explain himself, Drake wanted to throw that same shade on Mills.
Whataboutism works by finding an accusation similar to the one you've been accused of, one that applies directly to the person attacking you.
Drake must have thought about all the ways Mills was fast-tracking his own career. The most stinging one he came up with was Mills' girlfriend, Nicki Minaj, was the secret of his success. And maybe he had a point, but maybe he was just whatabouting his way out of the ghostwriter accusation. You love her, then you gotta give the world to her. Is that a world tour or your girl's tour?
I'm not a complete rapper because I use a ghostwriter. Well,
what about the fact that your whole success is made up of Nicki Minaj and her booty?
When a person whatabouts you, it's hard not to take the bait, but you have to stick to your point and stick to your question.
Which, just like Meek Mill did beautifully in his follow-up track, Wanna Know.
I just wanna know.
Was it Quentin Miller? Was it Usher? Was it Detail where you really got your flow?
Meek asks a lot of good questions. What parts of Drake's songs were Quentin, or the rapper Hush, or music producer Detail? Unfortunately, rap songs aren't the best form of debate because Wanna Know wasn't very good. And because accusing Drake of using a ghostwriter is like accusing a fridge of keeping food cold. It's literally how things work.
Whataboutisms are usually activated when there's a shade of truth to what your accuser says.
You know you're guilty, but maybe they're guilty too. And if you can prove they're guilty, all of a sudden everybody's guilty and there's really no crime.
Next time someone drops a whataboutism on you, acknowledge their argument and offer to speak about it after they answer your original question. Stick to your guns on this, despite how many other whataboutisms they throw at you.
When you encounter a person using whataboutism on you,
You think that's annoying?
they haven't defeated or defended an argument, they've just distracted.
I've had enough of this.
Whatabouters hate people that can stick to their point. If you do, others will recognize the tactic. And unless you're Drake, don't put it on a SoundCloud rap song because no one's ever gonna hear it.